Hi, good morning. I want to talk to you about psychological defense mechanisms. I did a video before about why we have them, why they're useful to us in terms of managing our feelings. So I'd like to describe what they are today. First of all, there is withdrawal. This is withdrawing into a different place in yourself to protect yourself from a potentially threatening situation. It also means that you're not actively engaging in problem solving in that situation. The second one is denial. This is when we refuse to accept something that's happening. It's natural to do this when we feel that we're facing catastrophe or some kind of trauma. And also it means that it's a way of managing overwhelm when something might be just way too much for us. Thirdly, there's projection or projective identification. This is when you can't distinguish from an internally caused something from something that's caused by outside factors. So what this means is that what's inside is misunderstood as coming from outside. This can lead to a lot of assumptions and misunderstandings in relationships. Lastly, we have splitting. This is making sense of a complex, distressing experience where everything in the world is defined as either good or bad in order to make sense of the complexity. Now moving on to secondary level psychological defences. These are ways of making sense of ourselves, our relationship with ourselves. So the first thing is repression, which when we can't remember something because of its power to upset us. Secondly, regression. Now this is not conscious, it's not chosen, and it's not something we pursue, but it's a way of retreating to an earlier level of maturity or age in order to manage overwhelm. Thirdly, this is isolation. This is a feeling of separating out feeling from knowing, and therefore you don't have a strong emotional response to something commonly upsetting. This might be a situation where someone, say, has a trauma and they have no feelings whatsoever about it. This is a way of also managing overstimulation. Next, we have intellectualization. We all know people that do this. We may even do this ourselves. It's a way of talking about feelings in an emotionless way. And it's a way of holding on to a rational outlook in the face of overwhelming emotions. Next, we have rationalization. So this is a way of bargaining with ourselves. So when we don't get what we want, we tell ourselves we didn't want it anyway. And so basically this is saying that to ourselves when something bad happens, it wasn't so bad. Moralization, this is an unusual one, I hadn't heard of this one before. This is seeking ways to find it's your duty to pursue a particular action, such as you should always visit your parents at weekends, you should always write thank you letters. And it's a defensive mechanism because it's setting you apart from actually what you're feeling about something, and it's making your decision based on something else. Next, we have compartmentalization. This is when we allow two conflicting situations to exist in a way that we don't feel bad. It's a really clever way of holding conflicting realities without appreciating the conflict. Next, we have undoing. This is an unconscious effort to counterbalance a wrongdoing. We aren't aware of guilt or bad feelings about doing something because we've done something to make up for it. So this is a classic one where someone has an argument with a friend, buys them a bunch of flowers to make up for it. Then we've got the defense of turning against yourself. This is when we redirect a negative outside situation against ourselves. Happens in situations such as divorces, where children may take on there's something wrong with them because their parents have divorced. If there's trauma around, if there's abuse, then one way of managing that is to turn against yourself. Lastly, we have displacement. Now this is a redirection of a drive or emotion from something else because of an excessive anxiety. So we will do something rather than something else. A classic example, you've got a deadline for work, you've got to do it by 9 o'clock at night, but suddenly the most compelling thing for you is to wash the car. So I hope this is useful. Basically summarising the primary and secondary defence mechanisms, telling you a bit more what they're about, so that you know maybe what you might be doing and help you to make something that's unconscious conscious. Thank you for listening.